Have you ever tried to buy something online for your business, only to be forced to fill out a contact us form and wait for a sales rep to contact you? Or worse yet, you spend time configuring an order and then inevitably have to talk to a sales rep who doesn't know the context and the history of your order and you have to start all over again? That frustrating process is failing because the B2B buyer has changed. Close to 60% are now millennial buyers who were born online and expect a seamless experience that's also personalized. If your business isn't meeting that demand, you risk becoming invisible to the biggest buying group in the market. In today's interview, I talk with David Blue, the founder of Saltbox, and we break down the blueprint for creating that modern buying experience. You'll learn how to build that blend of the digital experience with smart automation to not only win over this buying group, but future-proof your business. Let's get to it. How is the business-to-business buying experience changing?
I mean, it's changing in many ways, and it's changing constantly, right? You hear a lot about and read a lot about how the lines are blurring between B2B and B2C, and all of that's true. And B2B always lags behind the consumer business. But what we're really seeing a lot of in our business and our customers isn't necessarily the thing that you'll always hear, hey, we want to be more like Apple, we want to be more like Amazon. Like, of course, there's those elements that we hear, but what we're seeing is the B2B buying experience changing and erring towards personalization and the ability to traverse the channel that you're purchasing on in a way that is seamless from channel to channel. Whether you're starting online or starting with a sales rep, regardless of where you start and finish an order, that process being seamless and frictionless. And that's the biggest thing that has changed over the last few years, last decade in B2B. That's really driving, I think, a lot of the investment and a lot of the change when it comes to where B2B organizations are making investments in their buying experience.
Why is this happening? Why is personalization so important now?
I think there's a number of reasons. I think there's demographic changes, right? The buyers are becoming younger. The baby boomers are retiring, and millennials are becoming the primary buyer, right? It's close to 60% of B2B buyers are now millennials, and they were born online, right? They expect the same kind of experience that they get in their consumer lives in business, right? It doesn't make sense to them that they have to, fill out paperwork or call a sales rep or do both to make a purchase. They want to pick up their phone. They want to go online. They want to do all these things themselves. I think that's a large driver of this change is just the demographics of it. And then of course there's the technology, and the technology is obviously something that is constantly changing and improving, and the ability to either consolidate platforms or stitch platforms together in a way that allows this seamless experience is easier than it's ever been before. Using platforms like Salesforce or others to make these experiences personalized and frictionless is becoming less of a barrier to entry than it was certainly a decade ago. And I think those are really contributing factors to driving this change. And I think B2B organizations are finally becoming wise to the fact that this is what their customers are asking for, right? COVID and the pandemic, when everybody was stuck at home, really shined a light on the old way not being the only way, the old way being, handshakes and steak dinners and face-to-face interactions. We don't need that necessarily. It's still an important part. And I do think the pendulum will swing back a little bit, and face-to-face will come back in vogue slightly in B2B and really all sales. But at the end of the day, self-service and digital is going to win the day when it comes to how buyers want to buy, because buyers continue to get younger, buyers continue to get busier, and digital and seamless buying experiences online are going to be the only way that B2B organizations are going to win that buyer over. And that's where the investment is going to continue to get placed.
Hey, business leaders and marketers. What if your brand could be featured right here? This ad spot could be yours. This channel is watched by a dedicated audience of ambitious founders, executives, and professionals who are actively looking for tools and services to help their business grow. If you want to put your brand in front of this highly dedicated audience that's difficult to reach, I'm currently looking for a few strategic partners for the channel. To learn more about sponsorship opportunities, click the link in the description. Let's grow together. So I'm a millennial. I was born in 1986. And I grew up around these, handshake meetings. And when I was living in China in my early 20s and late 20s, there was this desire to meet in person and continue to do that. And when COVID started, I did see that people stopped wanting to meet in person. At the time, I was living in Vietnam. But people in general were not meeting in person anymore, obviously. And even after COVID, I've seen people say, why do I need to meet in person? Because they've gotten used to, over the last 5 years, not needing to meet in person. They go, well, why not? And as you said, the buyer is becoming younger. And my philosophy is, why can't a video call suffice? If I need to do a call at all, why do I have to interact with anyone to purchase something from them? And what I've seen with even Gen Z buyers is that they don't even have the skills to really talk to people. So I grew up in a very social society, and I see that my cousins that are, 15, 16 years old now, the idea of a phone call is massively scary to them. They would rather just text.
Terrifying.
And I feel like this idea of going back to handshake meetings is probably not going to happen, or if it does, the bounce back may not be so great. But I'm at a loss for how these things are changing so fast, and how Gen Z is really pushing that forward.
I think it's gonna. You're right, and I think there's always going to be a time and place for a well-informed salesperson and those sales assisted buying experiences, whether that's in person or over a video call, especially in B2B, where oftentimes the sale itself can be complex, right? You have whether it's a technical product or a sophisticated product that needs a subject matter expert to help explain to a buyer, right, how something works or how things work together, or maybe there's a configuration aspect that needs or requires a salesperson to or a technical person from the manufacturer, whoever it might be, to to interact with that buyer to help them understand what it is they need, or to get them over the line with the details of their purchase. But to your point, if we can avoid that at all costs, most buyers are going to fit into that category than the category that wants that sales assisted experience from the very beginning. So modern B2B buying experiences mix both of those things together in a way that meets that particular buyer where they want to be, right? So some buyers maybe get 80-90% of the way to purchase without a sales rep at all. And, they can do their own research. They can configure their own product. And this is where you have to have the tooling and the right architecture to set up this ability for them to configure their own orders and configure their own products, etc. And others, may not feel comfortable doing that. So that's where sales assisted is going to continue to be a part of that sales motion for a lot of these B2B companies. But one size does not fit all in any buying experience, in B2B especially. So what we're seeing and what we're recommending to our customers is the modern B2B buying experience needs to have both, but it needs to make sure that where one motion ends and one motion picks up, that we're not starting over, and we're not starting from point A when we move to a sales rep from online, or vice versa. we're picking right up where we left off. Meaning, if we've started to configure a product or we've started to configure an order and we're 80% of the way through there, we got to pick up at 80%. We can't start from scratch. And so many B2B organizations in the past several years, or I guess from really the beginning of time, if that was the case, your sales rep would get to you, you've started an order, you've started to configure something online using a tool, and then they'd say, all right, well, tell me what you need, and tell me about your use case, and you'd start that whole process over. And that is that's something that modern buyers just don't stand for anymore. So that's the key, is mixing physical sales with digital sales in a way that meets that particular buyer in a way that they want to be sold to. And that's the personalization aspect, not just with the tooling, but also with the channel by which buyers want to be sold to and want to be interacted with.
Wouldn't it make sense then to push for 100% of the way being without the need for a human sales rep? Because I feel like the system can be automated in a way that the AI knows who you are at every turn. And every time you come back, they remember the previous interaction. So you get that personalization. You can get that friendliness, because I've had conversations with a number of different AI models in the voice mode, and they're incredibly friendly and super helpful. And over time, they remember who you are and they remember the details of the conversations you have with them. It's like a friend, really. And so for sales, for you to have that and for it to have that memory, it knows the configuration of your order. So why do you need humans then?
I think it's a really great question. And I think the answer depends on the what and the what you're buying, right? Because a lot of B2B, right, they're ordering the same thing every month, the same thing every quarter, right? These are long tail orders that are largely the same every month, right? Think about hospital systems that are buying consumables, or manufacturers that are buying bolts and things that are just you need to buy the same quantity of, or pretty close to the same quantity of over the course of the year pretty consistently, right? Those are the types of orders that we do want to drive to almost 100% digital, because you don't really, like to your point, need a sales rep to create or process an order when it's going to be the same every month. Now, where a sales rep can come in and is effective is cross-sell, upsell opportunities, or where that customer may be wanting to explore new applications or new use cases that they are not taking advantage of from that particular manufacturer, for that particular from the organization that they're buying from today. So utilizing the sales rep to educate on new product or new applications of product to help make them stickier or expand the share of wallet. That's where the sales rep comes in. But what we're seeing in a lot of those long tail customers is, let's move all of those to digital, or let's even move all of the the high volume, low touch historical buyers to 100% digital, because then our sales reps can go finish working on the large deals. They're breaking into new territories, finding new logos, and not focus on spending their time, because time is not infinite. It's the only limited resource they have. They're not spending their time processing an order that is going to process whether they're there or not, because the customer is going to buy it month over month, quarter over quarter, either way. And that's where digital really comes in to the picture in a very effective way to offset the cost of sales and free up sales rep time to go do the more effective things, like taking down new logos, expanding territory, and selling new product into that customer set.
I agree. I think having humans focused on new business is far more valuable for any organization, especially when I don't see a reason why the AI can't be trained to understand the cross-sell, upsell opportunities and new products, so that they could, keep a friendly conversation going, where human has to be trained on those things and remember those things and be tested on those things and have multiple opportunities to sell those things before they start to become proficient in it. But the AI will be proficient in it immediately.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, think of any online experience you've had where something goes in your cart and it's customers that also bought this, that bought this also bought these things, right?
Yeah.
The AIs, and that's a very simplistic use case, but you can get very sophisticated in the attribution of products, or the bundling of products using things like AI to help your buyer understand the products that they should be exploring, or the products that they should be considering, given the products that they already buy from you, the frequency they buy those products, the quantities by which they're buying those products in. And the AIs are getting very, very good at kind of dialing in those recommendations, and we're starting to see more and more of that in the storefronts we're building for customers, and that's becoming something that customers are asking for more and more in the user experience of the sites and storefronts that we're building for the exact reason you mentioned.
Well, it's great to hear that companies are asking for that, because I feel like now is a very pivotal moment in the use of AI in business. That if business owners are not thinking about how they could be using this, or they're not actively testing implementations, that they're going to lose business to businesses that are doing it. And I think if a business doesn't have any AI in the next 24 months, they will be dead. I think 100% chance they will not make it if they don't have AI.
They certainly are going to be far behind, and on the path to demise, if they don't, for sure.
So what are you working on internally that you're able to talk about that's new and exciting, something that you're passionate about that you're not maybe talking about too much?
Yeah, it it's on the topic of AI, right? We're spending a lot of time and a lot of resources with how we use AI internally, and we're a professional services company. We develop software, and what what we do with AI is becoming more and more important for our own efficiencies and um, our own kind of quality of life from our consultants' point of view, right? We have a very labor intensive service offering, right? We do project based services, and AI is disrupting the way that consultants and professional services organizations do work in a pretty meaningful way, and we want to be on the bleeding edge of using it in a way that that allows us to not only do our job better, but do it in a way that benefits our customer. And those benefits, meaning time to market, help get done things get done faster, help get it done at a more competitive price, because we're able to do things faster. And of course, right, most consultancies are still working on some sort of fee based or time and materials type fee structure. So we're working on tooling internally that allows us to take our kind of historical context and how we develop software, and what our definition of good looks like when it comes to how we write user stories or test cases, or all of the nitty gritty that comes along with being a software development company, and apply that to every role across the software development lifecycle in a way that improves our consultants' ability to do their specific role by N%. And what that N is still probably too early to see what exactly that percent is, right? Is it 10? Is it 90? Is it somewhere in between? That's probably where it will net out. But we're spending a lot of time making sure that we're transforming ourselves into an AI enabled services organization, not a services organization that sometimes uses AI.
I think that's a great way to think about it. Yeah, there's a term, I guess it's called AI native or AI first.
Yep,
It's probably the same.
exactly. Yeah, exactly. It needs to be embedded in everything we do, not, hey, maybe we use it, or hey, maybe I'll try it over here. It needs to be in the path of how everybody across the organization works, and we need to do it in a way that is controlled to make sure that the way that we're using AI is, or the way that the AI is helping us work is just the same way, or the same way that it would be if our CTO was doing that, or our lead consultant, and it becomes an extension of us, not a crowdsourced version of professional services from the broader internet, right? We want to curate it in a way that is very specific to us, and that's been where a lot of the investment and energy goes into, to make sure that everything we create is specific to Saltbox, and not generalized, so that it can be AI native, we can be AI first, and it can be bespoke to how we work, not generalized that anybody could pick it up off the street, because we have a lot of IP. We're very good at what we do, and our AIs should reflect all of that work that we've done over the last several years, and and make us more effective at using that knowledge and kind of project history, etc.
How do you balance the time and energy of your team to implement these initiatives while also not losing their focus on serving the customers you already have and using the existing processes that you have?
That's a great question, and I wish I had. I wish I had a perfect answer, in that we were doing a great job at striking a perfect balance. But the truth is, we're probably not, right? Because we still are a small, nimble organization that, while we did raise funding, right, resources are still limited in how we deploy our capital, and we are trying to do our best in kind of siphoning off both capital and people resources, to make sure that we're dedicating a portion of our consultants' time and our team's time to work exclusively on that. But as we know, right, everyone's got a plan until they get punched in the face, and professional services is one of those industries that you get punched in the face a lot. So there is always going to be competing priorities with how you use time and resources when it comes to serving customers, and we are experiencing that on a monthly and quarterly basis, where we have to pull resources away from internal work to help get a customer over a line because they're on a deadline, and things are running a little bit behind, or we've got the need to help a customer unexpectedly, and it's a good problem to have, right? We have a project that we didn't expect to start, that we need to start, but now we need to pull resources. So it's a hard balance for us to strike, because the pace of change is also very fast. Meaning, if we pull someone away from what we're doing in our own internal AI pursuits for 30, 60 days, a lot can change in that time, and when we get back to working on that project 60 days from now, in this fictitious example, the way that we might be approaching it, or the technology available to us to solve that problem, might have evolved in a way that we might need to rethink our approach. And that's the hard part in all of this right now, is the pace of change and competing priorities when you run a small professional services organization that is dependent on people for revenue. And I also think that's one of the areas that AI is going to eventually help offset, because eventually we're going to be able to use AI to help build out our AI capabilities, and I think we're a ways off from that, but that's probably not something that is too far-fetched to believe at some point in the future.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are scared of that, but the reality is you can go to Cursor and you can use Cursor with Claude, and you can ask Claude to build you an AI chatbot connecting to OpenAI's API. I've done it a few times. So you can actually have an AI build another AI for you. It's already here, but I understand what you mean, that you're probably thinking of something that an AI can code another AI that then can code itself or improve itself. This kind of, I think it's called recursion or I could be wrong.
I think so. Yeah.
So I think that's what you're referring to, but yeah, that's quite scary, but it's going to happen a lot faster than people give AI credit for. Because the companies that are involved in building these things have no incentive to stop. So we're kind of at their mercy because capitalism wins.
Yes, it does.
So while your answer was really important for understanding the mindset of a service agency owner, a lot of people that are listening to this are in the process of starting a service agency or a SaaS brand. Can you go a little bit deeper and talk something that would be actionable for someone that's early in their journey for how to manage resources? How you have learned to manage resources?
Yeah, there's a lot of different flavors or a lot of different philosophies when it comes to, how you're managing, people capital. And we at our firm at Saltbox, we do project-based services, and we always try to be very mindful of our hiring strategy, and how we balance bringing on full-time employees versus when we might use third-party contractors or contract to hire mechanisms, and there's varying philosophies on how utilized or how much demand one needs to see in order to pull the trigger on a full-time hire. Our philosophy is we want to see line of sight to at least 6+ months of full utilization, meaning 40 hours a week billable time in the future, to feel confident that we are going to pull the trigger on a full-time hire for that role. And if we see that, then it's an easy yes. We're going to open a rec and we're going to hire. If it's less than that, those become different decisions that we as an executive team have in real time, and that's when we're examining and looking more closely at our sales pipeline and our bookings forecast to predict whether or not we're soon to have that backlog that's going to help us feel comfortable about a hire. And if the answer is no, then that's when we look at, well, how do we manufacture, start dates differently, or how do we look at bringing third-party contractors in to offset the need for hire? Because once in our business you increase capacity, the only way you ever decrease capacity is if you reduce that capacity, and that's never a fun conversation when you're dealing with people. So we've been fortunate that we've been, as I knock on wood, played that game very, very well in the last couple of years of very kind of uncertain, whether it's economic headwinds, whatever you want to look at it as, in a time where a lot of our competitors have retrenched and gotten smaller. We've been growing, and I think a lot of that has to do with our approach and philosophy on how we hire. But there's a lot of different flavors to headcount management and people management as you grow, and then obviously capital is a big factor in that, right? If you're bootstrapped, you're probably taking a little bit more conservative approach than if you raised 7-8 figures in capital, where you can afford a little bit of a higher burn rate and hire to a bigger bench and bet on the demand coming in a different way than if you were lacking capital to, as the insurance policy to that demand not coming. And I think there's a lot of different factors that go into making those types of decisions.
You said betting on the demand coming. What does that look like?
Yeah. So in our business, where when it comes to headcount and when it comes to making hires, and if we don't have that line of sight, if we don't have that consistent demand, hey, we're going to hire this person and they're going to be busy for at least the next 6-9+ months, we have to look at our sales funnel and say, well, these deals, we feel good about these deals closing, and we're going to make a bet that even though they're not maybe committed deals, or they're not to the point that we're going to count on them happening from a revenue side, we are going to place a bet that they are going to happen, and we're going to go make whatever we need to do to make those deals happen, so that we can make that hire. And then we're really placing that bet that those deals happen, so that then that capacity then does come into the revenue side of the business and fill up that person's allocation.
What's the most important thing that you've learned in running this business?
Change is the only constant. I think whether it's technology, whether it's people, whether it's markets, as soon as you get comfortable, something new happens, or something new changes that you have to react to, both positively and negatively. And as soon as you get comfortable with that philosophy, as a CEO or as a business leader, you're going to be in much better shape than thinking everything's going to be the same.
Thanks for watching. If you liked this insight, I've handpicked another video for you right here on the screen. For more actionable strategies that get you real results, hit subscribe.